Do you ever watch a show, a movie, or just read a story that has you so hooked on the beginning, then by the end of it, you're stuck looking off into your screen in horror of what atrocities you've just consumed? There's definitely a lot of answers to this question you could think of: Game of Thrones, Attack on Titan, the Soul Eater anime, but for me, that series was Akame Ga Kill. We all remember Akame Ga Kill, right? I mean, we probably don't want to remember the anime, but we do anyways. Just kind of sticks with you. Akame Ga Kill was a manga series serialized in monthly Big Gangen back in 2010 that ran for 78 chapters. It was written by Takahiro, just Takahiro. He's made a lot of stuff in the past. The series would have gone on for about 4 years until it had gotten its anime adaptation announced by White Fox, who have actually made some pretty notable works both before and after Akame. The story follows a guy named Tatsumi trying to make it big in the Empire with his friends, but oh no, they were murdered by Psycho Bitch. So he kills Psycho Bitch and gets forced to join a group of assassins called Night Raid, whose goal is to revolutionize the Empire, and I think we all know the story from there. If you don't, then I guess you're lucky, I guess. For a bit of time, Akame Ga Kill was actually being praised by lots of people during the anime's run. It was very well received at first. Color me surprised. But then we got to the last like 6 episodes that were airing, and well, you know, I probably should mention I'm going to spoil like everything about the anime and manga in this video, so I mean, you've been warned now. Thanks for the watch time. By the end of the anime, everyone's fucking dead. Well, except for the leader and Akame. They survived. Even the main character of the series died before the final fight of the story had even happened. All the deaths happened at around like the same time. Character relationships and all the development were just thrown out of the window, and the ending was a big pile of poo-poo stinky. The ending was so bad, in fact, that the entire legacy of the series completely changed from its initial run. Akame Ga Kill went from being one of the most praised anime at the time to being regarded as one of the worst shows ever fucking created. Which is, I mean, like a bit of an overstep, but you can see just how badly it pissed people off just from that alone. The ending of Akame Ga Kill's anime left a hole in so many people's chests because even though it was a tragic ending, it wasn't a good one. Having a story end with a non-happy ending is perfectly okay and can even elevate a story, but for Akame Ga Kill, it didn't really make all that much sense because it wrapped up like nothing. Around the time I finished the anime, I was told by many others to read the manga instead because it was so much better. I complied and picked it up online and began to read. By the time I finished it, all that had gone through my head was, oh wow, this was actually pretty solid. What the fuck happened here? But why did the anime butcher so many things about the manga, you may be asking, my dear friend? Well, it's a pretty simple answer. You see, the anime began back in early 2014, about 4 years after the manga started. Usually that'd be a pretty good sign, but Akame Ga Kill was a monthly manga, and so there weren't as many chapters as, let's say, 4 years of One Piece. The manga was also nowhere close to over either, as it didn't end until about the start of 2017, so that's 3 years worth of content that the anime didn't even get to cover. Very quickly, the anime would pass the manga, which they already butchered a lot of content from, and realize, oh damn, we need to end the series. And so they ended it in a way that they knew would be different from how the creator planned to end the manga so that people wouldn't be bored with it when that ended. So the production of the ending was just a mess. A really big mess. It's like that scene from SpongeBob where every mini SpongeBob working inside of his brain starts burning all the papers because they couldn't remember his name. He had one job, White Fox. You couldn't have possibly fucked it up. And you did. Very disappointed in you. Now, to be quite fair, the anime's version of the ending isn't entirely different from the manga. Most of Night Raid still dies by the end of it in both iterations. And a lot of them die in most of the same ways, except for Lubbock, who died way differently in the manga. Wasn't like entirely different, but it was a lot more gruesome. That goes for actually a few characters. But one of the reasons why I feel like it's so much better in the manga version was because it felt like there was a lot more time between these deaths, and it also didn't force them. As there was a lot more content, there's a lot more time to grow with these characters. In the anime, a lot of the character deaths were kind of out of nowhere and felt like they were just there to throw them out of the story and shock the audience. In the manga, they're executed as if it's actually for the benefit of the story, and it makes more sense for these characters, because you can't really see them surviving to the end of it. While in the anime, you don't really have any reason to doubt why they couldn't have survived. So even though most of the characters still end up dead, they feel a lot more natural for the story and gives you time to breathe between them. Whereas in the show, you see one character die in one episode, then see another character die in the next one, and you're kind of just tired of seeing it all. The world building in the manga makes some of the biggest differences in the story though, as it dives deeper into the roots of the Empire and just why it's so bad to begin with. In the anime it's just, oh, these guys kill people so they're evil. We also kill people, but we're not evil. Let's fight. And like that's kind of just boring and doesn't really make a lot of sense when you think about it. The characters as a whole just feel a lot more like actual people in the manga as well. They also interact a lot more like actual people in the manga. They literally don't act like people in the anime. A lot of the relationships that were built in the anime were executed as if they were NPCs in a Sims game. About 20 chapters that were heavily integral to Tatsumi's character arc were completely skipped over, as well as important chapters for developing the internal issues between the antagonist and the Empire. Wave and Kurome are two big victims of this, as their characters are heavily butchered in the anime, while they are a lot more well established in the manga. They feel a lot more lacking in depth in the adaptation. Both of these characters also end up surviving by the end of the manga, which is a pretty big difference, and they get a pretty happy ending while also being together by the end of it, which makes more sense because you were meant to believe that they were going to end up together in the anime too, but then they just kind of go nowhere. It's a lot more satisfying and adds up more depth to the villain group, and is a way more satisfying conclusion to Kurome's character than her being killed by Akame. An entire arc was also literally just skipped from the anime. The Wild Hunt arc, which by the way is one of the best in the story, just doesn't happen in the anime, and you don't get to see any of the characters from that arc show up, nor do you see what it adds to the story, because it adds a lot. It's like 3 volumes worth of content that just doesn't exist in the show. It's pretty clear to see why the scale of things felt so unnatural there when you skip over so much necessary content that also so happens to be near the tail end of the series. The most notable difference though between the anime and manga are Tatsumi and Mine, as they both survive at the end of the story. Mine was never killed off in the stupid way she was in the anime and is instead left in a coma, so she doesn't really do a whole lot still, but she's still alive. Her relationship with Tatsumi is built up more after the point where she would have died, and the two end up together happily by the end of the story. Except Tatsumi's a dragon now. Yeah, that happens. I don't really know how to explain it, but that's just how he turns out. He's still alive, but he's not human anymore, and he's happy living with Mine for the rest of his days now that the war is over. However, the idea of him becoming human again is left up in the air, because now that he and Mine survive, Akame has a very different reason for her journey at the end of the story, which leads into the later installments of the series, Hinawaga Crush. Yeah, there's a sequel. There's also a prequel. Akame Ga Kill has a pretty big universe. The story still has its bumps and bruises in some places, but what story doesn't have their bumps and bruises, right? It's not perfect and some people may still not like it, but Akame Ga Kill to me was a very enjoyable manga from start to finish that wrapped things up just fine. Way better than its adaptation tried and failed to do. It's nothing crazy as a story, it's not some life-changing experience you'll never find anywhere else again, but it's a fun story that manages to stay pretty consistent, and doesn't leave you with total distaste by the end of it. It has some of my favorite characters and character designs in anime and manga as well. Akame is one of my favorite female leads in all of manga and anime, both character and design wise. She isn't technically the MC of Akame Ga Kill, but she is the face of the franchise, as she's prominent in basically every story Takahiro wrote for the universe. She's also the best character by far, so that makes sense. Unfortunately, HGC is coming to an abrupt ending that probably won't give the story a proper conclusion, so that really sucks. There's also a prequel series that was really underrated and well worth a read. I've not read HGC yet, but people have told me that its ending so soon is a bad sign for the story, as it wasn't really anywhere close to finished, which is quite a shame. I think the Akame Ga Kill franchise has to be one of the most unlucky stories ever written. The anime practically killed its popularity despite the manga ending on a lot better of terms. Only a few were left, which left Zero to be doomed to not have the same big fan base it once had, and HGC was pretty much the same case, but even worse. The series was left in no man's land because of the atrocity that was the adaptation. If it had been just made a year or two later, had the proper care necessary, or was just given an ending to the story that the characters actually deserved, the landscape of the franchise would probably be in a much different state right now. A better one at that. It's really unfortunate what it did to the series, because while it certainly wasn't perfect, just from reading the manga you could feel that there was actual real care and passion put into this story. All credit and love goes to Takahiro and Tetsuya Toshiro. You guys are the real MVPs. Akame is also the best girl. I don't want to hear any arguments for Ez's death or anyone else. She's the best. And that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in this video. To anyone still here, I want to tell you that I'm editing this video on my birthday, and it's supposed to be coming out like 2 days after. So if you're watching this, comment some birthday wishes and like the video as a gift while you're at it. I never ask for likes and subscribers in my videos because I'd rather you do that yourself, but hey, this feels like a good excuse to do so. It's my birthday. But with all that being said, that's everything I have for you all today. I'll see y'all later.